Thank you all for attending Programmatic 101 session. So Paolo and I have put together a little deck for you for us to talk through some programmatic hints and tips today. But we have done it in this area of the building to hopefully make it more conversational, more interactive, far less formal than if we were in the big presentation room. So as we go through some of these points, just please shout out if you're not understanding anything, if you want us to elaborate on anything, if you want us to apply anything for your specific clients. The purpose of this is for you to walk away feeling far more confident in having any programmatic conversations than you do now at 10:03. So over to you.
Okay, over to me. So yeah, thank you very much. Wow, so I wasn't expecting a so professional, very professional session. This is not a master class. If it was, programmatic master class, I wouldn't be, the right person for this. So yeah, just, quite, a good refreshment about programmatic. Couple of tips, yes, on probably, your day-to-day job. And yeah, let's crack on. So here is what we'll cover today. So a quick introduction on programmatic. So the ecosystem, the waterfall, the marketplaces that you have heard quite often. So it would be good, just to give a good definition on what is it. I put together some best practices on how maybe to approach programmatic from the briefing stage to the execution of the campaigns. And also what I call, programmatic activation, the view from the agency side. So sometimes we are confused on what's going on. So I put together, a couple of good, useful tips on what's happening on the other side. Top questions that you shared with us. Thanks a lot. And finally, a couple of useful links on how, you could, get updated, improve your knowledge about industry trends.
Guys, can we share
what is programmatic? So the programmatic buying, as you probably know, is just an automated process to buy digital advertising. So basically, us as a publisher, we try to put on sales, our inventory through an automated platform, the SSP. On the other side, there are agencies that they act on behalf of their clients, that through the DSP, they make an offer for that space. Easy peasy, so nothing too complicated. So programmatic is in constant evolution. So we know we we sell a lot of display video, but programmatically you can access to audio, inventory, CTV, even digital out of home. So I know that you guys love print, but programmatic is not just the future, it's the present. You see what I mean? So yeah, so it's like comparing, yes, the horse with the space shuttle. You see what I mean? So, yeah.
On the cold.
Can't see what the deck.
Yeah, we can't see it. Brooksy just said.
Oh.
Just put it on.
Oh.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's the beauty of a live
guys.
event. Okay. So basically, yeah, what you need to know is that programmatic is not, a channel, is a way of buying. Okay. Here is more or less, I try to simplify. On the next slide, you will see how intricate is the programmatic scenario, the current programmatic ecosystem. So I split in two. In one side, there is the demand, as I mentioned earlier, and then on the right, there is the supply side. So we sit obviously here. So starting from the left, so let's say today there is, an advertiser, so Sainsbury, for example, okay, that they want to buy programmatically. They go through their media agency, which is Essence. Essence, they might go to an external or internal trading desk. So they might go to Xaxis or maybe to companies like MediaIQ or Quantcast, that they literally, their job is to buy programmatic for the agencies and the brands. So then they obviously, choose their own DSP, which is the platform that they use to buy the advertising. So display, video, whatever is the purpose of the campaign. So the most common DSPs are DV360, which is the Google one, Then you have heard obviously about Trade Desk. There is Xander. Then there is Amazon also, which is now growing a lot. MediaMath. So it depends. I would say that probably, you know, the biggest ones are DV360 and Trade Desk. On the DSP, then I also added, you know, data and brand safety, which basically, you know, nowadays we know how every single campaign, you know, require a specific, you know, targeting. So in that scenario, the agencies or the brands, they have their own data management platforms where they literally ingest and push, you know, data to target, you know, a specific, you know, audience. In addition of that, to make sure that they deliver properly in a safe environment, they apply, you know, verification partners. So you might have heard about, you know, Double Verify or Integral Ad Science. So those are, you know, additional partners, additional technologies that ensure to deliver in safe environment the ad of their brands. Here is basically what do the agency on the demand side. Every single partner has a cost, okay, across the programmatic chain. On the other side, then there is us. Us as a publisher, the same way they use a DSP, we use an SSP to try and, you know, sell our inventory. Again, the most famous SSP is GAM, so Google. Google is the king of programmatic, but there is also Xander. Xander has also an SSP. Then there is, for example, Magnite, PubMatic. So those are, I would say, the four ones. There is also Index, OpenX, but I would mainly, you know, remember GAM and Xander as the main ones. The same way, you know, they can ensure to buy in the best way, we do the same, and we can, you know, overlay, you know, verification partners. Same identical thing, we do that with the IES, we could do with the Double Verify, and recently now we launched our solution, which is Mantis, which can also act as a verification partner. Same thing, we overlay data, so we have Lotami data management platform, so it's a way for us to try and offer the best audience depending on the brief that we receive from the clients. And we can also overlay our first-party data because we are one of the biggest publisher in United Kingdom. In terms of inventory that we can sell, so this is we'll see it, you know, later. This is the waterfall, which are, you know, PG deals, PMP, and open market. So we'll see that, you know, shortly. And it's just, you know, it's different, you know, kind of inventory depending of obviously price and quality.
Are there any questions on this?
Any questions
before we move across? So that's essentially the digital programmatic ecosystem for us in its most simplest form. Easy to digest, hopefully.
Is there any DSPs that we don't work with?
So we are technically agnostic. So it's more if an SSP is not integrated with the DSP, but I would say we work with more or less, you know, the main ones.
There's not like a large one in the market that we don't.
No, absolutely. So we recently discovered a new DSP that I never heard of, which is called Hawk, that Orion is using, and we have been able, you know, to create easily, you know, a deal. So yeah. Here is, you know, the intricate instead, you know, scenario. So those are all, you know, the players currently in the market. Most of them, I don't know them, all right? But to give you an understanding on how, you know, everyone try to basically have, you know, a part, you know, across, there are multiple layers into the programmatic chain. As I mentioned earlier, there is, you know, the waterfall. So the waterfall, I use this chart in terms of pyramid that shows, you know, the importance of the inventory available. So on top, there is the programmatic guaranteed. So programmatic guaranteed is obviously a sort of direct. but through automated platforms. So it has a fixed price, fixed amount of impressions, and very premium inventory. So the same way you do direct, but via programmatic platforms. Underneath it, there is the private marketplace, which is, I would say, limited, partners can access to that specific inventory. So there is always, an auction base. There is always, who makes the highest bid, can win that inventory, but it's not for everyone. All right. So maybe we can create some packages around, I don't know, automotive. So only we can sell that, I don't know, only to automotive clients, for example. You see what I mean? So those kind of things. In the private marketplace section, there can be, very different nuances. So PMPs with more importance than others. There are, different deals, so preferred deals that they have, a fixed price. So in that scenario, no matter how much you bid, you will always, pay the price that you agreed with us. And then there is instead, the floor price, which is an entry level, basically. So you start from a 2 or 3 pounds floor, and from there, who bids higher, win the space, basically. And then there is the open market, which, I loved, and it's kind of the far west, all right? So this is, the rest of the inventory, and whatever is unsold, it goes, to the open market. And this is where, there is competition across the entire landscape. And, obviously there are very, big inflations because, it's not, you cannot control it. And, but it's good in case, considering there is, the entire ecosystem, you can, reach and scale pretty well. Marketplaces, all right. So you might have heard, quite a lot recently about the marketplaces. This is something not too new, but kind of, a solution that agencies, are starting to use more often and into their, programmatic activity. So you might have heard about, OMG Marketplace is the marketplace of Omnicom, Group M Premium Supply, done in Dentsu, Pi, at Publicis. So those are basically agencies, full transparent approach and curated to the programmatic ecosystem. So basically their goal is to try and translate all the basically delivery that they make across the open market, so across literally not very premium inventory, into instead a more curated marketplace with only selected and premium partners. Instead of delivering across random websites a very, cheap inventory, cheap prices, they try to basically deliver, the money of their brands across a better, marketplace.
Does that still classify as open marketplace, or is that more like what PMP and private marketplace?
Very good question. It will sit obviously in the waterfall in a higher position. So on the PMP section, because it operates, let's make it simple, just for you to understand, on a PMP basis, basically.
A bit more control over that.
Exactly. This is exactly like that. So why the marketplace for the agencies? So this is, the beautiful story, all right, that, they tell, which is true. But then in practice, they have seen, I think, a very good opportunity also in terms of investment. So from a PwC report that went out a couple of years ago, they showed that the entire total, the 24% of the entire total cost per client went into supply costs. So SSPs, as I mentioned before, and technologies on the supply side of the programmatic chain. Those, I'll go quickly on the next slides. So here, basically. This part, you remember that there was kind of, that line was here. The agencies couldn't see it. They couldn't control, because those were, the platforms that publishers, use, all right? And they realized that 24% of the total cost of their clients is too much on technologies, all right? So in that situation, they try, they found an opportunity. So for every 100 pounds that maybe, they spend in advertising, 24, they need, they have margin of 24 pounds to try and save money for their clients. So they started to kind of, use SSPs on their side as well. So they created their own marketplace. They spoke with those technologies like, Xander, Magnite. They start to rent and to have, their own seats like we have, and to control, better the workflow, to have direct relationship with the publishers and, move the chain till closer to the publisher. So now they control the entire programmatic chain. So now they are able to show to their clients, to quantify the cost in every single moment of the programmatic landscape. Don't know if that makes sense. So basically in that scenario, there is a win-win-win situation, because the clients in that situation, they will, by reducing those 24% of supply costs, they'll have, more money to invest in media. The publisher will see more money into their pockets, and the agency, by creating that offering, that solution, obviously is a new product that they can, sell to their own clients. So everyone take, a part of that 24%. Does that?
What's the average cost now then, now that they've made that change?
Good question. So for example, I would tell you, so I don't know very well, but I would say between 10 to 15%. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you see what I mean? So you save 9%.
It should be like there's only that.
And obviously, you start also to deliver in a better inventory, because, if you spend more on reach, then I don't know which websites, you see what I mean? It's better. We send them, also more premium inventory because it's in a PMP, so it's deal. So it's good. It's good for everyone. Okay, best practice. Okay, so here is, I would say, so this is probably, I think a very useful chart, because I think if from the briefing to the troubleshooting stage, we need to make sure that everything is done properly on our side. So these are some tips that you probably already know, guys, all right? But to consider whenever, we go live or whenever there are some problems. So my recommendation is, in the planning stage, always to ensure and to know what are, the dates of the campaign, what is the budget. In terms of budget, it's also, important to understand if it's net budget, total cost per client, gross budget, because sometimes we have, a lot of, misunderstanding. If we are, that budget belongs just to reach, or, instead is fluid across other partners. The KPI of the campaign, obviously, and yes, if there are, other, publishers on the plan. The setup is good, it's important to understand which is the platform that they're using. So what is the DSP that the agency will use for that specific campaign? In terms of audience and brand safety, if they apply it on the DSP side, so on their side, so make sure we do not apply anything on our side. Same thing for viewability. In case they apply, usually agencies right now, they want quite often have viewability threshold on their site. It's kind of, a mandatory thing, almost all of them. In that scenario, let's avoid to apply top slots on our deals, because all these things reduce the amount of avails that we send them, and, we're less competitive. So this is the thing. In terms of troubleshooting, then let's monitor, the daily spend on click, right? So a close eye. I would always, my recommendation is to concern at the beginning on pacing, all right? So it's not important the performance at the beginning, so let's spend, all right? Once we spend and we know that, everything works, we can optimize, all right? And then, for example, a couple of tips, if the daily activity is inconsistent. So if we see, you know, up and downs, that means that we have a problem. So there is something that is not going, you know, pretty fluid. If we have, you know, the express deals that pays better than the rich ones, there is another problem, because rich has a bigger inventory. So usually, you know, they scale better and they spend more. So those are, you know, some tips. Again, it's always, you know, better call me, all right? So if you want to involve here, wherever you want, all right? So feel free to loop me in any conversation. But I think those are, you know, useful, you know, guidelines. So if you follow that process and we do not scale, okay, you cannot blame yourself. You can blame me, the agency, or, you know, the, I don't know, our setup, whatever. You see what I mean? But this way, we can make sure, you know, to do everything, you know, the right way.
Just to point out, this part of the deal is probably the most important part. I know that in our minds, getting the deal set up is a win for us. But if we don't see the spend as a result of not troubleshooting it properly or being across it properly, then we don't get any money. So it's great that we get the deals in and we get the partners live, but we have to get into practice of properly assessing and keeping across all of our programmatic deals to look for nuances that will help. That will help us, make sure the revenue is coming in as it should.
So next slide. Once again, so this is the campaign life cycle. So nothing new for you. So you all know the process, but I thought, yes, with Lauren, that considering, you know, that we are growing a lot, we have always, you know, new joiners, it could be, you know, useful, you know, to have, you know, a vision on how basically is the entire life cycle of the campaign. So yeah, we have the response. So we received the brief. So response to brief, try to take into consideration, you know, the planning and setup, you know, guideline that I shared. Ideally, once again, I always, you know, recommend to have a kickoff call, but I know that every client is different. So maybe they just send you an email and they want, you know, a response. So feel free whenever you want to involve me, and we can respond to that. Create and fill the booking form on Salesforce, obviously. Then obviously fill the PMP PG form to the ops team. Then once the deals are ready, feel free to send an email to the clients with all the details. So obviously, let's make sure, you know, to confirm, you know, the start dates. Once again, here in that phase, if the campaign is important, more I will try to have, you know, a closer relationship with the agency. Obviously, you know, that guy is definitely better than me. So ideally, you know, maybe, I don't know, weekly, you know, catch-ups, you know, would be great. But once again, agency side, they are always, you know, reluctant into that. So I know that it can be pretty frustrating. Anyway, once, you know, the campaign goes live, let's, you know, monitor the campaign and, you know, send, you know, regular updates to the client. The campaign ends up, we send, you know, an end of campaign report. We deliver, we spend, we go all to Oxmoor, and we celebrate. Okay. So yeah, basically, yeah, nothing new, but it can give, you know, an idea for whoever, you know, will join, you know, how basically programmatic works, the life cycle of the campaign. Here is instead basically something that I wanted to add, a typical scenario that I have seen when quite often when I was agency side, and I might think reflect some of the frustrations that you faced, or maybe you're facing right now. So this is an hypothetical scenario, all right, but pretty common. So let's say that was, you know, a typical campaign that we might think, you know, that had, you know, 60K of budget, duration 1 month, format display, KPI, CTR. So pretty easy peasy. However, in the end, what happened? So we only deliver 5K, pretty inconsistent. Client, no collaborative at all. We never understood what was the problem. Obviously, we didn't scale. Performance was not great. Goodbye, see you, who knows when. Next burst, you are out of the picture. This is something that, you know, quite often, you know, I've seen happening, all right? Now I'm gonna show you on the next slide what was, you know, the situation agency side, all right? This is, on the agency side, what they did, all right? Those 60K in reality were split in 3 different IOs. So the insertion orders, all right, to make it simple, is a way to split the campaign in 3 in a DSP, all right? So there was, a budget for the open market, where there were, 4 lines, usually are even more. Sometimes are even, 10, 15 lines, where there are, Google Affinity Audience, in-market audience, contextual targeting, categories. Each of these lines require a setup, a budget, a bid, a site list, a brand safety, so it's a lot. In addition, then another insertion order, that's where we were, you see what I mean? PMP. Next to us, there was also Mail Metro, News UK, ESI. As you can see, we hadn't, 60K, but we're, 20K in reality. The budget of 20K wasn't just for us, all right, but it was fluid across everyone. And finally, other, rich media, PMP with Assyrian and Just Premium. So as you can see, the budget, yes, was divided in 3. It was fluid on our side across the different partners. We weren't scaling, they didn't care, because at the end of the day, the KPI was very, very easy to achieve. They were scaling across the other partners, so they forgot about us. You see what I mean? Most of the times, agencies, they have, very quick turnarounds, as we have. So maybe, I don't know, the new trader on that campaign inherited, it from someone that left. Maybe didn't understand. He doesn't even know. Whenever we send them, maybe an email, he's maybe very, very junior that he's just, even ashamed to respond because he has no clue on what's going on. But the campaign is pacing. They are hitting the KPI. It's fine to me. You see what I mean? So this is why it's incredibly important that, our deal is done, is set up, properly, and we have an understanding on who are, with us, competing with us, basically. That's it. And then, it's fine. If then, things do not work, is because it wasn't, supposed to be. You see what I mean? But if instead we do not scale well, then we have a problem. Okay, I think my job is done here, right?
Your job is done. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And wait, it's not over. Did you have any questions for Paolo on his? Yeah.
What was the agency side?
Sure.
Those different breakdowns, right? Obviously, you come from the agency side. Is it something that you can actually ask the agency, or where else is it breaking down in terms of like what are the PMPs are used,
You can ask that. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So whenever you're in the planning stage before we go live, I always it's important to ask, okay, what is the situation around it? You see what I mean?
Nice one.
Quick question from Paolo from Steve Brooks. With agencies moving the line to the right and taking more control of SSPs, have any publishers ever tried to move that back to regain more control for themselves?
Well, the thing is, it's for a publisher, it seems strange, but it's better if they gain also that control, because basically it allows us to reduce the competition, all right, to work closer with them. So it's in our best interest that they have a more transparent approach, because in that scenario for us it would be the marketplace is more revenues and a more curated inventory that we sell them. So I would say for us it's better like that. You see what I mean?
And we don't not have control still. We have both options available. So when we set up regular direct PMPs, they go through the usual channel, and then it's just in the marketplaces that the line is shifted to be more in the agency's control.
Marketplaces exist. They're going to move further up the waterfall, as you said. Are we going to charge them more for it?
We are charging more. Yeah. Quality, you need to pay more. You see what I mean? Yeah.
Where does Ozone fit into all of that?
Good question.
Was it coming up?
It's on my question. It's on my question list.
Ozone can sit everywhere.
Also, we're going to do a separate session on Ozone because it comes up a lot, all the time, quite regularly, and I think it needs its own session. It's in the diary for sometime in September. So, yes, all I was going to say on that point anyway was we are going to be doing a proper session on it to answer some of your questions around where that fits and why we created it, almost. to give you better understanding. But so some of the questions, thank you for sharing with us last week or over the last couple of days. A question was, why would an agency or client buy programmatically? And that's pretty much is to achieve a fair price. So they can, the vast majority of their campaigns can be bought through an auction. And so they know they're not being overly charged for the same inventory, essentially. So that's pretty much in a nutshell why. What are the benefits to them and us of them buying programmatically? These questions are very similar. So again, for the agency, it's them achieving a fair price. For us, it's working with them in a fairer way. It's giving them opportunity to buy us in the way that they want to. We can offer them scale, we can offer them reach, we can offer them audiences in a relatively easier way than it would be setting up like loads and loads of direct IOs, essentially. How much of our digital revenue is made up of programmatic? I couldn't get an answer to that question, so I will come back to you. And should we be pushing this type of buy more than any other type? No, for us, still the gold standard will always be direct IO. We are consistently targeted with gaining that direct relationship with our clients. It keeps the control our side more than a programmatic buy. But ultimately, if your clients want to buy programmatically, then we are capable of trading with them in that way as well. But yeah, direct IO will always be gold standard.
And that's how our budgets are laid out. If it does switch by line programmatically as time evolves, we will move things around. But for us to get the high yield, it would always be on an IO.
What's the difference between floor and fixed price deals? So Paolo kind of touched on it in the presentation. Essentially, if a buyer wants to guarantee inventory, he or she will pay a fixed price for it that we've agreed between us and them. If they want to chance themselves and they don't really care about where they're finding the inventory, but they just want to make sure that they're not overpaying, they might set a floor price. So that enters them into an auction. So we would say, right, the minimum we're going to charge you for that impression is £2. And then they will enter into a bidding war. If there's multiple clients wanting to achieve that same impression, the price gets pushed up, and we might end up achieving the price that we wanted to in a fixed price deal, £3.50, for example, anyway. So often if a client is pushing back on what you're asking for in a fixed price and they're entering into a negotiation, rather than saying, okay, I'll reduce it to £3, an idea might be to say, why don't we just set up a floor price deal, set it up at £2.50 and see what happens. And then in most cases, we'll end up at around a price that we wanted to anyway. And they like it because they have the flexibility.
That would be on a PMP basis.
On a PMP basis, yeah.
Would a fixed price deal take priority over a floor price? If
Sir?
obviously the
Good call.
The price,
price hasn't reached
Yeah.
fixed
the threshold, yeah. Then the fixed price will always win.
automatically win
Yeah.
before the auction.
Yeah, so sometimes a fixed price deal, your fixed price deal might not be winning enough inventory, and that's because for some reason people are overbidding within the floor price space, and the inventory is worth more. And so then you can go back to your buyer and say, you're not winning anything because suddenly our pricing has moved to £6 overnight, and the inventory is not there because these people are winning. But in most scenarios, the floor price will be playing somewhere between that, and the fixed price deal will always win. So what does it say? So that got a glare. Where they sit in the programmatic eco space. So this was one of your questions, Sarah. So
Yeah, I think most of it's been covered off by Paolo, but I think in terms of DR advertisers, how can we engage them?
So in terms of where PG and PMP sit in the waterfall, obviously Paolo has covered that. So for us, PG deals, the reasons why agencies would buy a PG deal over a direct IO is for the automation. So they don't have to set up 10 to 15 different IOs and send them around. They can do it pretty automatically, but still winning the same quality of inventory. For DR clients, we are looking into creating a DR package, which would be perfect for you. Some of our clients we've spoken about recently, Paul. So we're going to look at where that would play, because they need to achieve certain, probably more stricter CPA targets or cost per completed view targets or whatever it might be. So I think that's, rather than placing them in the bucket of everyone else and asking them to pay a higher price, same as we would do in print, they get a cheaper price for getting kind of remnant inventory or back half inventory.
Yeah,
Do you have any guidelines on pricing for those clients?
Yeah, I can speak to you about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we looping on that conversation as well for travel clients.
Yeah.
Because we put together like a bolt-on to any travel print spend. We try and get like a £500, but it's more direct IO, but it'd be good to loop into that conversation.
Yeah.
Is it going to be quite tricky to get them, like you say, if they're cost per acquisition or?
Yeah, we need to, on the briefing stage, we need to be very, very clear
To understand what the KPI
exactly.
is and then work backwards. It might be that CPA deals don't work for us, but there's certain other measurements like cost per completed view we can definitely measure on and we can trade on. So it might be something like that we can work to, just understanding what your clients really want in the digital space and making sure that we're in that.
No, as a buyer, for example, me personally, I've never ever set up a PMP for a direct response campaign. Just because when you're on the other side, you need to bid very, very high on the retargeting pool. You see what I mean? So you want to try and reach everywhere as much as you can in the open market, maybe, right on the prospecting phase, and then instead pay a lot for your retargeting audience. But again, if, it's an achievable, KPIs, maybe lenders, those kind of things, maybe we can do that. You see what I mean? Maybe if they want to explore, obviously we're open to everything. But if, I don't know, we are compared to, the general CPA goal, the same as the retargeting, you see what I mean? We will never be able to achieve that.
Ozone I've mentioned, and then what's the commercial win for agencies when buying programmatically? Ultimately for them, as we showed in right in the very beginning, there's multiple partners, tech partners that they work with in order to achieve the inventory at the end. And if an agency is set up correctly or in their best practice, they would be winning or have a deal with every single person along that chain. So they would get a rebate deal most likely with whichever DSP they use, whichever verification tool they're using. So they're winning on every single part of the programmatic chain. Whereas if they came to us directly, they would only be winning from our deal. So that's really why agencies like to push programmatic as much as possible. Are there any other questions before we move on outside of those ones? No. So in this part, I was going to do like a bit of an interactive fun part, but I decided I wouldn't in the end. So I was going to do like a build. I was going to do a build on each one and be like, guess the buzzword, but I just thought maybe it's a bit mean. So I've just listed out here some, standard buzzwords or acronyms that are used quite often in the digital landscape. We have lovely new starters who are learning all of this stuff. So I thought it was just a really useful place to kind of put some of this stuff down. And yeah, I was going to quiz you all on like what some of this stuff meant, but I didn't bother. So CPM, obviously, that's how we trade. PCA, obviously, I'm not going to say obviously in every single one. Post-campaign analysis, end of campaign report, cost per click, click-through rate, completion rate, or a VTR is a view-through rate. That's mainly in video. Viewability, we're all very, very familiar with, quickly. Cost per completed view in view.
Never seen that.
Highly complicated.
Yeah.
Publicists ask for that a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, it is difficult to trade on this metric, but it's not impossible. Programmatic guaranteed, private marketplace, open marketplace. DMP is our data management platform. Ours is Load2Me, where all of our CVS data is stored that we use on our campaigns. SSP, DSP in the programmatic ecospace, supply side, demand side. DV360 is a DSP, the Google one. The Trade Desk is the Trade Desk, sometimes called TTD. Xander.
It's been supply chain. Why?
Huh?
But, no, not true. DSP, why supply chain? But
Xander is the Microsoft-owned DSP, SSP. Frequency capping, sometimes done on campaigns to extend reach. So you're not blasting one person with 6 ads. You might want to frequency cap it to 2, so you're getting better results for your clients. AdX is the Google platform, run of network, no targeting, and Double Verify or IAS are verification tools that we apply for brand safety. So there's some of the ones that I thought of there. This slide is for you guys when we send around this deck or when it's uploaded to the B2B portal. Just some additional learning for you guys to just, if you get a spare 10 to 15 minutes when you're not doing your compliance training or filling out Salesforce, you can look on these kind of websites. They're just really good industry type websites, digital first, just to get your head around, to get information on all sorts of digital challenges that are happening across the ecosystem and the marketplace, just to better your knowledge. And again, a podcast there. So Adweek Europe are always uploading like cool keynote talks and different things. Again, just your commute home, you might want to listen to one, depending on what the subject is. Just thought I'd leave them there for your own learning after. And then again, just because we have some new starters and are a continuously moving team, I just wanted to highlight what ad formats can be bought programmatically versus ones that can't, just so it's super clear. So obviously standard formats all can be served programmatically. So standard IAB formats, all absolutely fine to serve. Large IAB formats, absolutely fine to serve programmatically. Skins, you can serve programmatically, a bit more fiddly with the setup. So make sure you're looping in me or Gloria if you do want to play in the rich media space. There's just certain hoops you have to run through. But it's, if you do hear your client saying, I've got a rich media budget, we can definitely take some of that and serve out a load of programmatic skins. Pre-roll as well also can be served programmatically. Page splitters, things like takeovers, homepage takeovers, shore view, any of these formats cannot be served programmatically. They have to be direct IO. The setup is impossible to serve like ads together programmatically. It has to be more of a scattergun approach programmatically. That's how I think of it when I'm trying to remember. So yeah, that's it. Any other questions? I think we've had quite a few throughout, but oh yeah.
I've got one more. You know, when Mantis first launched, we were really proud of the fact that it was AI based and it was a bit more advanced and everything else.
Yeah.
Is everything else on the like double verifies, for example, have they kind of brought up to it now?
No, so Mantis was set up as a competitor to DV and IAS, and the reason why Mantis is so good for publishers is because IAS and Double Verify, these third-party tools, will take at least 24 hours to categorize our pages. That's still the case. So you would lose kind of 24 hours of inventory and scale from your campaigns, whereas Mantis, because it's owned by us, it's done like straight away. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's like done at CRM level, I guess, or something. And then it's pushed straight out. So that immediately, as soon as that article's live, it knows whether it's going to be whatever the brand safety terms are going to be for that page.
I totally get that, but the actual tech behind it, because previously they were just like massive long lists of keywords and they instantly blocked the article. Have they improved in that area?
Not really. So we have the positive sentiment that they do not.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
So they wouldn't be able to still know the difference between
We're
words.
still saying that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, just in case someone says
Yeah, as far as I know, they're still not. They're still playing in their space. We haven't attacked them enough to make them change what they're doing. Like, still the vast majority of the digital world are still buying into what they do. So we're still kind of, even though it's a great solution for us, it's not really a huge threat to them that makes them change the way that they're working.
Yeah, the thing that I discovered that the only thing that Mantis can do, but nobody else also can do, is scan the images on a page. So yeah, we look at the content, but not the images. But no one does it, to be honest, the images. But that will be the next step, probably.
So yeah, thank you. This will be uploaded to the B2B portal. You can obviously take your own time to look at that slide about further development and knowledge. And yeah, if you ever have any questions on any of this stuff, or you want a refresher, or you just want me to grab your team for 10 more minutes, like you guys will do a DR package or whatever, just let me know. I'm available. Except when I'm on holiday.
Thank you very much.